Oak Alley Plantation is one of the most well-known and visually striking plantations in Louisiana. Located along the Mississippi River, this historic estate is famous for its long alley of oak trees that stretch from the mansion to the riverbank, creating an eerie yet beautiful atmosphere. While many visitors come to admire its grand architecture and breathtaking scenery, others are drawn to Oak Alley for a much darker reason. Its reputation as one of the most haunted locations in the state. The history of Oak Alley dates back to the early 19th century, when it was built as a sugarcane plantation. Its original owner, Jacques Roman, came from a wealthy family and oversaw the plantation's construction in the early 1830s. With its Greek Revival-style columns and intricate design, the mansion became a symbol of wealth and power. However, beneath the surface of its beauty, Oak Alley had a troubling history tied to slavery and hardship. Many believe that the tragic past of the plantation has left behind a lingering presence. Over the years, visitors and staff have reported unexplainable experiences, from ghostly apparitions to eerie sounds echoing through the halls. The connection between history and hauntings is something that cannot be ignored at Oak Alley, as the spirits of those who lived and died there seem to still be present. One of the earliest recorded ghost sightings at Oak Alley involved mysterious lights appearing in the mansion's upper windows when no one was inside. Witnesses claim to see shadowy figures standing in the rooms, watching silently before vanishing without a trace. These eerie encounters have continued for generations, leaving many to wonder who or what still lingers in the historic estate. Beyond the mansion, the plantation grounds themselves hold their own ghostly secrets. The rows of ancient oak trees, which have stood for hundreds of years, seem to carry the weight of the past. Some have reported hearing the sound of footsteps crunching along the pathways when no one else is around, while others have seen misty figures moving through the shadows of the towering trees. These experiences suggest that the spirits of Oak Alley are not confined to the house alone, but instead roam freely across the land. As we begin to explore the haunted history of Oak Alley Plantation, it becomes clear that this place is more than just a historical landmark. It is a site where the past refuses to be forgotten, where the echoes of those who came before still seem to whisper through the halls and gardens. Whether these stories are the result of imagination or something far more mysterious, one thing is certain: Oak Alley remains one of the most chilling and unforgettable places in Louisiana. Many who visit Oak Alley Plantation leave with an unsettling feeling, as if unseen eyes are watching from the shadows. While the mansion's beauty is undeniable, it is the lingering spirits that make it one of the most haunted locations in Louisiana. Staff members, visitors, and paranormal investigators have all shared eerie encounters, leading many to believe that the ghosts of Oak Alley refuse to leave. One of the most well-known spirits tied to the plantation is believed to be Josephine Stewart, the last private owner of Oak Alley. After her passing, strange occurrences began happening in the mansion, particularly in the upper floor bedrooms. On multiple occasions, staff members have reported seeing a dim light glowing in one of the upstairs windows late at night. When they went to investigate, the light would flicker out, leaving the room in complete darkness. From outside, some have claimed to see the outline of a shadowy figure watching them from the very same window. Those who have witnessed this phenomenon believe it is the spirit of Josephine Stewart, still overseeing the plantation as she did in life. Another ghostly presence often reported on the grounds is that of a mysterious woman known as the Lady in Black. Described as having long dark hair and wearing an old-fashioned black dress, she has been spotted walking along the porches and balconies of the mansion. Some say she is the spirit of Celine Roman, one of the plantation's early owners, while others believe she could be her daughter, Louise. The most chilling encounters with the Lady in Black occur near the ancient oak trees, where witnesses have seen her riding a spectral horse, silently moving through the shadows before vanishing into thin air. Adding to the supernatural atmosphere of Oak Alley are the unexplained sounds that echo through the estate. Among the most commonly heard are the rhythmic clopping of phantom hooves. Some believe this is connected to the lady in black, while others speculate that it could be the lingering presence of past plantation workers or former residents. The distinct sound of a horse-drawn carriage rolling up the front pathway has also been reported on numerous occasions, yet when witnesses rush to look, there is nothing there. These strange occurrences suggest that Oak Alley Plantation is far from an ordinary historic site. The spirits that linger here seem to be tied to the land, refusing to fade into history. Some appear as watchful protectors, while others seem to relive moments from their past, forever imprinted on the estate. With each new encounter, the legend of Oak Alley's hauntings only grows stronger, leaving visitors to wonder what other secrets may still be hidden within its walls. Beyond the apparitions that have been witnessed at Oak Alley Plantation, there are countless reports of unexplained activity that leave visitors and staff questioning what lingers within its walls. Strange sounds, mysterious movements, and eerie sensations are all part of the experience for those who spend time on the grounds. One of the most unsettling occurrences inside the mansion is the sudden movement of objects with no apparent cause. A well-documented incident involved a candlestick that was violently thrown across a room during a guided tour. The event was witnessed by multiple people, all of whom were left in shock. The candlestick had been resting on a table moments before, with no one near it when it suddenly flew through the air. While some have tried to rationalize the event, those present that day believe it was the work of an unseen force. Another commonly reported event is the sound of ghostly voices drifting through the halls. These voices are often described as whispers or faint murmurs, though in some cases, they take on a more sorrowful tone. The most chilling reports describe the sound of weeping, as if someone is crying softly in another room. Staff members have searched for the source of these sounds countless times, only to find empty hallways and undisturbed rooms. The exterior of Oak Alley Plantation is not free from paranormal disturbances either. Visitors walking along the grounds have reported seeing plumes of dust being kicked up, as if someone is walking ahead of them, only for no one to be there. Some believe this could be the lingering presence of former workers or residents who once walked these paths daily. Others have experienced an unshakable feeling of being followed, only to turn around and find nothing there. In addition to these strange occurrences, there are areas of the mansion where the guests have reported sudden changes in temperature. Certain rooms become noticeably colder without explanation, even during the height of Louisiana's hot and humid summers. Some believe these cold spots indicate a ghostly presence, while others suggest they could be tied to moments of intense emotion from the plantation's past. With so many unexplained events taking place both inside and outside the mansion, Oak Alley Plantation continues to be a place of mystery. Whether these disturbances are caused by spirits trapped between worlds or by the powerful energy imprinted on the land, one thing is certain: those who visit often leave with more questions than answers. Among the many spirits said to linger at Oak Alley Plantation, one of the most well-known is a figure known as the Lady in Black. This ghostly woman has been seen wandering the balconies and porches of the mansion, her dark presence casting an eerie feeling over those who witness her. But what makes her most unusual is her connection to a spectral horse. Multiple visitors have reported seeing her riding across the grounds beneath the towering oak trees, vanishing into the darkness before anyone can get a closer look. While the true identity of the Lady in Black remains a mystery, some believe she could be Celine Roman, the wife of a former plantation owner, or perhaps Louise, her daughter. Others speculate that she may have been a resident or worker from long ago, forever tied to the land. Regardless of who she was in life, her ghostly presence has been reported too often to be ignored. Beyond the sightings of the Lady in Black, another unsettling phenomenon has been experienced by both visitors and staff. Many have described hearing the distinct sound of phantom horses on the property. The The rhythmic clip-clop of hooves can be heard moving along the front pathway, often accompanied by the faint sound of a horse-drawn carriage rolling along the drive. However, when people look outside, there is never anything there. The sound simply fades into silence, leaving only confusion and unease behind. Some believe these ghostly horses are connected to the carriages that once transported plantation owners and visitors to and from the property. Others wonder if the sound could be linked to the enslaved individuals who worked the land, as horses were commonly used for labor during the plantation's operation. No matter the cause, the phantom carriage remains one of the most chilling and frequently reported ghostly occurrences at Oak Alley. The plantation is also known for its unexplained shadows, which have been seen darting across rooms and appearing in the windows when no one is inside. One of the most well-documented sightings involved a shadowy figure standing in an upstairs window, gazing down at the grounds below. Those who saw it claimed it resembled Josephine Stewart, the last private resident of Oak Alley. The figure remained motionless for several moments before suddenly vanishing. And when the room was checked, it was completely empty. With such a strong history of unexplained events, Oak Alley Plantation has solidified its reputation as one of the most haunted locations in Louisiana. From the mysterious woman on horseback to the ghostly sounds of carriages and horses, the spirits of this plantation continue to make their presence known to this day. While many of Oak Alley Plantation's ghostly encounters involve apparitions and unexplained sounds, some of the most unsettling experiences come in the form of physical disturbances. Visitors and staff alike have reported objects moving on their own, as if unseen hands were at work. One of the most chilling incidents involved a candlestick being thrown across a room during a guided tour. Without warning, the object lifted from its place and landed on the floor, startling everyone present. There was no explanation for how or why it happened, but it became one of the many stories that added to the plantation's haunted reputation. Another common phenomenon at Oak Alley is the sight of rocking chairs moving on their own. Even on days with no wind, chairs on the porch have been seen slowly rocking back and forth, as if occupied by an invisible presence. Some visitors have tried stopping the movement, only for the chairs to begin rocking again moments later. These unexplained occurrences lead many to believe that the spirits of former residents and workers are still very much active on the property. Inside the mansion, ghostly voices have been heard, often described as soft weeping or whispers echoing through the hallways. Some say the crying sounds like a woman mourning, while others insist it resembles the quiet sobs of a child. However, every time someone tries to locate the source, the noise fades away, leaving only an eerie silence. Another strange event reported by multiple witnesses is the appearance of plumes of dust being kicked up in empty areas. People have described seeing dust swirling in places where no one is walking, almost as if invisible footsteps were disturbing the ground. This has been noticed both inside and outside the mansion, particularly in the pathways leading through the grounds. Some believe this could be residual energy from the plantation's past, a lingering presence replaying moments from long ago. With so many unexplained encounters, Oak Alley Plantation continues to be one of the most talked about haunted locations in Louisiana. Whether it's the sight of shadowy figures, the sounds of phantom horses, or the eerie movement of objects, one thing is certain: something lingers in this historic plantation. Those who visit may come for the beauty of the grand estate, but many leave with an unshakable feeling that they were not alone. Even today, Oak Alley's past refuses to stay buried. The spirits that roam its grounds ensure that its history is never forgotten, and for those who are willing to listen, the plantation still has many stories left to tell. In the hills above Montego Bay, Jamaica, sits a grand old mansion called Rose Hall Great House. From a distance, it looks peaceful, surrounded by green land and overlooking the deep blue Caribbean Sea. But once you get close, you can feel something strange in the air, like the house is keeping secrets. Rose Hall was built in the 1770s by a man named George Ashe. He was a rich British plantation owner who wanted a home that showed off his power. The house was made with local limestone and followed the style of Georgian architecture. That means it had a balanced look. Everything even and neat, with wide windows and strong columns. It stood 3 stories tall and was filled with fine wood, stone floors, and large verandas that opened out to the breeze. Back in those early days, the estate was huge. It covered more than 6,000 acres and was home to sugarcane fields, mills, and dozens of outbuildings for the people who worked the land. This made Rose Hall one of the biggest and most important plantations in Jamaica during the colonial period. But behind the beauty of the house and its views was a much darker history. It was a place where many suffered. The people who lived and worked on the land were enslaved, and their labor kept the estate running. The sugarcane brought wealth to the owners, but it came at a high human cost. That pain, some say, still lingers in the halls and fields to this day. Today, people know Rose Hall not just for its grand look, but for the ghost stories that are still told. The house has become famous for one name in particular, a woman called Annie Palmer. But her story doesn't come into the picture just yet. First, we must understand the land, the home, and the time in which it was built. This was a place where power ruled and silence was forced. It was a time when people believed in spirits and dark forces, and some say those beliefs were not just stories, they were warnings. And if you visit Rose Hall on a quiet night, you may hear something yourself, maybe footsteps with no one there, or a cold wind drifting through a closed room. But that's just the beginning. In the early 1800s, the Rose Hall estate changed hands once again. A wealthy Englishman named John Palmer became the new owner. He had big plans to grow the plantation and expand its operations. But it was not John who would become known across Jamaica. It was his wife, Annie Palmer, who would leave behind a trail of fear and legend. Annie Palmer was born in Haiti in the early 1800s. When she was still a young girl, both of her parents died from yellow fever. She was then raised by a woman said to be a practitioner of voodoo. Under her care, Annie learned the old rituals, dark chants, and secret ways of Haitian magic. Some say this knowledge shaped her into someone far more dangerous than anyone could have guessed. When Annie arrived at Rose Hall, she came not just as a wife, but as a woman who wanted control. Locals began whispering that she was no ordinary lady. People said she practiced witchcraft behind closed doors. She kept strange items in her room, and the workers on the plantation feared her deeply. Some believed she could curse a person with only a look. Annie's marriage to John Palmer was short and filled with tension. After just a few years, he died under what some called unusual circumstances. No official explanation was ever given. After his death, Annie stayed at Rose Hall, now the mistress of the estate. From that point on, things at the great house began to shift. Rumors started to spread that Annie had taken a new lover, an enslaved man from the fields. But then he disappeared. People whispered that when Annie grew tired of her lovers, they never lived to tell anyone. The pattern repeated itself. More men came and went, and each time strange accidents followed. There were no public trials, no confessions, and no justice, just silence and fear. Workers avoided looking Annie in the eye. Some refused to enter certain parts of the house, and when the sun went down, few dared to walk near the house at all. But the most chilling part of her time at Rose Hall was yet to come. Something darker was stirring, something that could not be explained away by gossip or fear alone. Annie's power grew, and with it, so did the sense that the estate was no longer just a home. It had become something else, something cursed. As the years went on, strange things began happening more often at Rose Hall. Workers reported voices in empty rooms and footsteps that echoed through the halls at night. The sound of heavy boots, dragging chains, and whispered chants filled the air, especially near the grand staircase in the cellar. Some claimed to see candles flicker when no one was around, and others spoke of doors slamming shut on their own. There was one room in the house that many refused to enter. It was said to be Annie's private chamber, where she kept her most mysterious objects. Inside were carvings, bottles filled with dark liquids, and strange symbols painted on the walls. Some said this was where she performed her darkest rituals. Visitors to this day say the air in that room feels colder than anywhere else in the house. What made the fear worse was the silence. People who worked on the estate would suddenly leave without warning. When asked why, they would simply say, "Something is wrong in that house." Others would lower their voice and talk about Annie's final days, how she started acting even more strangely, walking the halls at night and talking to herself. One story says she was seen digging near the base of a silk cotton tree at midnight, but no one dared to ask her why. The legend says that her dark power finally led to her end. A man, possibly a powerful spiritual figure, or an enslaved man who had seen too much, was said to have turned against her. He waited for the right moment, then took her life using both physical force and spiritual means. Some stories say the man used a special chant to bind her spirit, while others believe he was simply seeking justice. After Annie's death, things did not return to normal at Rose Hall. Instead, the fear only deepened. A tomb was built on the grounds to hold her body. Locals say that the tomb was supposed to be sealed with a voodoo ritual strong enough to trap her spirit forever. But something went wrong. The final part of the ritual was never completed. To this day, people believe that is why her spirit still walks the halls of Rose Hall, not just as a ghost, but as a force tied to the land by unfinished magic. Her presence, some say, was never meant to leave, and never did. Even as the years went by, Rose Hall's eerie reputation continued to grow. Many visitors, both local and from abroad, came to see the great house with their own eyes. What they didn't expect, however, were the strange occurrences they would witness firsthand. People who ventured into the house at night spoke of sudden cold spots that would appear out of nowhere, no matter the weather outside. A few people claimed to have heard whispers, soft and unintelligible, coming from the walls themselves, as if Annie's ghost were still speaking to those who dared to listen. On one occasion, a group of tourists who stayed at the house during a thunderstorm reported a strange sighting. As the storm raged outside, the group stood in the main hall, marveling at the antique furniture and intricate design. Suddenly, the air grew cold, and one of them noticed a figure standing at the top of the staircase. It was a woman dressed in a long white gown, staring down at them with an expression that made their blood run cold. The woman's figure was so clear, yet the rest of the room appeared blurry, as if she didn't belong. As quickly as the figure appeared, she vanished, leaving behind only the chill in the air and a sense of terror. Some visitors have also heard strange noises coming from the area near the master bedroom, where Annie Palmer was said to have spent her final years. Those who stayed in the room often complained about feeling as if they were being watched. One visitor said that they woke up in the middle of the night to the sound of something dragging along the floor. When they turned on the lights, there was nothing there. Others claimed to have felt cold hands brush against their arms, though no one was near them. In one of the most chilling accounts, a visitor took a photo near the grand staircase. Upon reviewing the photo, they were shocked to see what appeared to be a faint, glowing figure in the background. It was a woman in a long green dress, standing just below the staircase, looking directly at the camera. The photo had been taken in a well-lit area with no one standing nearby, and the figure seemed impossible to explain. The tour guide later confirmed that the woman in the photograph resembled descriptions of Annie Palmer, particularly the green dress she had been known to wear. While some of these stories are dismissed by skeptics as overactive imaginations, the consistent accounts of paranormal activity at Rose Hall are hard to ignore. Local legends persist, telling tales of Annie Palmer's restless spirit, continuing her reign of terror in the afterlife. Whether it's the sound of her ghostly laughter echoing through the halls or the shadowy figure of a woman seen riding her horse across the plantation grounds, the stories of her haunting presence remain a part of the house's dark legacy. Rose Hall Great House, despite its eerie reputation and the dark legends tied to it, continues to draw visitors from around the world. Whether it is the breathtaking view of the Caribbean Sea or the chance to walk through history, there's no denying the allure of the estate. But for those seeking more than just a tour of an old plantation house, the promise of encountering something supernatural lingers in the air. The stories of Annie Palmer's ghost and other strange phenomena at Rose Hall persist, becoming a part of Jamaica's cultural fabric. Today, the Great House stands as a symbol of the island's complex history. The restoration efforts in the 1960s, led by John Rollins and his wife Michelle, have helped preserve its architectural beauty, and the house is now a popular tourist attraction. Visitors can take guided tours, learning about the plantation's past and hearing first-hand accounts of the paranormal activity that still seems to haunt the property. Many tourists report having strange experiences, such as the feeling of being watched, seeing unexplained lights, or hearing footsteps when no one is around. The legend of Annie Palmer, though heavily tied to fiction, still captivates the imagination. While historical records do not support the more sensational parts of her story, the idea of the White Witch of Rose Hall continues to shape the narrative of the house. Some believe her spirit remains restless, unable to find peace due to the dark deeds she committed during her lifetime. Whether it was the murders of her husbands, her cruel treatment of enslaved workers, or the mysterious death that ended her life, the dark energy of the house seems to resonate with those who visit. Among those who have investigated the property, both amateur and professional paranormal teams have gathered evidence that suggests something is not quite right at Rose Hall. Ghost hunters have captured unexplainable sounds, cold spots, and fleeting figures on camera. Some claim to have felt a cold hand on their shoulder when no one was near, while others say they've seen shadowy figures walking through the rooms of the house late at night. Despite skepticism from some, the consistent reports of paranormal activity lend weight to the belief that Rose Hall is more than just a relic of the past. Beyond the personal experiences of visitors, the haunting of Rose Hall has become a part of the cultural consciousness in Jamaica. Over the years, the story of Annie Palmer has been immortalized in songs, books, and even films. Her legacy, whether entirely fictional or based on true events, continues to capture the fascination of people around the world. The White Witch of Rose Hall, in all her eerie glory, has become a symbol of both the beauty and the darkness of Jamaica's history. Even though the plantation is no longer an active site for sugar production, its past, both tragic and supernatural, remains alive and well in the stories told by those who visit. The Great House is a place where history and mystery converge, and for many, it offers a glimpse into a time long gone, but never forgotten. Whether it is the stunning architecture, the history of slavery and colonialism, or the haunting presence of Annie Palmer herself, Rose Hall continues to fascinate and terrify. Today, as the house stands against the backdrop of the Caribbean Sea, visitors continue to wonder if the restless spirit of the White Witch still haunts its halls. Some say she waits for the perfect moment to reveal herself once again, while others believe her spirit is forever trapped in the very stones of Rose Hall, unable to escape the legacy she left behind. Though the full truth of Annie Palmer's life and death may never be known, the ghost stories, the legends, and the mysteries surrounding Rose Hall Great House ensure that its place in history, both real and supernatural, remains a powerful and enduring part of Jamaica's past. In the early 1800s, a man named Dr. John Drish made his way from Virginia to Tuscaloosa, Alabama. He was a respected physician, but also a businessman who made money through medicine, construction, and investments. Drish arrived in Tuscaloosa in the year 1822 and later married a wealthy widow named Sarah Owen. With his growing fortune and Sarah's inherited wealth, the couple decided to build a mansion that would become one of the finest in the area. Construction on their home began in the year 1835. It took 2 years to complete and became known as Monroe Place. The house sat at the center of a large plantation that stretched across 350 acres. Drish designed the mansion himself in the Greek Revival style, featuring towering pillars and rooms filled with detailed plasterwork and wood carvings. Much of the elegant craftsmanship was done by the enslaved artisans Drish owned, some of whom were highly skilled in plaster and ironwork. By the time the mansion was finished in 1837, Drish had retired from medicine and devoted himself to his various businesses. He was wealthy, respected, and had created a home that showed off his power. But beneath all of that success, the family's story was marked by pain and sorrow, and it wouldn't be long before the mansion's dark history began to unfold. Dr. Drish had a daughter named Catherine from his first marriage. After her mother died, Catherine was sent away to live with relatives until Drish remarried. When she finally returned to live with her father and stepmother at Monroe Place, the relationship with her father was tense. Some accounts suggest that Drish could be cruel and controlling, especially when Catherine fell in love with someone he disapproved of. It's said that when Catherine refused to give up the man she loved, her father locked her in a room and kept her from eating properly until she gave in. The young man was forced to leave town, and Catherine was made to marry someone else, a man named William King. That marriage ended badly as well. Catherine gave birth to 3 children, but one of them died young. Her husband later divorced her, claiming she had lost her mind, and sent her back to live with her father. At the time of her return, the Drish house was being remodeled. Drish added an Italian-style 3-story tower to the home, possibly out of jealousy toward another wealthy man in town. That tower, which once symbolized power and pride, would soon become the focus of many ghost stories. Life inside the Grand Mansion continued to darken. By the time the Civil War ended and slavery was abolished in Alabama in 1865, Drish was financially ruined. He turned to gambling and drinking, and the once powerful man began to spiral. In the year 1867, tragedy struck. Dr. John Drish died after falling down a staircase inside the house. Many believe his death was caused by his drinking, but others have said he seemed to sense something was coming. Not long before his fall, Drish had begun making plans for his funeral. He wanted candles placed around his casket in the upstairs room, a final, eerie request from a man who had built a home filled with pain. Sarah Drish followed his wishes. She arranged candles around his body and instructed the household servants to keep them for when she died, so she could have the same tribute. But when she finally passed away 17 years later, in the year 1884, the candles were nowhere to be found. Shortly after her funeral, a strange call was made to the local fire department. Someone reported a large fire coming from the tower of the Drish house. Firefighters rushed to the scene, but when they arrived, there was no fire. The tower was cold and empty. Over the years, that strange phantom fire would be seen again and again, with no explanation. Many now believe it was Sarah Drish trying to light the candles herself, desperate to finish what had been promised to her. After Sarah's death, the house passed through many hands. It became a school in the early 1900s, when the Tuscaloosa Board of Education bought the property. By 1925, it had been turned into a warehouse, and later, around 1940, it was taken over by the Southside Baptist Church. Though the building was used for many different things over the years, one thing never changed: the strange feeling that someone or something was still inside. Visitors to the Drish house have long reported paranormal activity. Some say they hear soft footsteps in empty hallways. Others feel cold drafts even when the windows are closed. The most unsettling spot is a small bathroom near the tower. People have seen shadowy figures standing near the window, and others have reported a strong floral smell with no source. A scent some say is linked to Catherine Drish. who loved gardening. But nothing compares to the sightings of fire in the tower. People have called in reports, swearing they saw flames in the top of the house. Yet every time, nothing is found. Locals believe it is the ghost of Sarah Drish, still trying to recreate the funeral she never had, still mourning a life filled with loss and grief. The house may change, but its past continues to echo in every creak and shadow. The Drish house still stands today in Tuscaloosa. Restored and repurposed, the house has hosted weddings and events, but its haunted reputation has only grown. Paranormal investigators and curious travelers continue to visit, hoping to glimpse the strange lights, smell the mysterious perfume, or catch sight of the woman in mourning. Some leave convinced they've experienced something beyond explanation. The story of the Drish house is more than a ghost tale. It is a reminder of promises broken, grief never healed, and the weight of the past. Dr. John Drish built his mansion to show his wealth and success, but what remains is a home filled with sorrow and secrets. The haunting of the Drish house isn't just about what happened after death. It's about everything that happened while they were still alive. Sarah Drish was denied her final wish. Maybe that's why she still lingers. Maybe she's still lighting the candles herself, one by one, in the house that would never truly let go of its past. In the heart of Demopolis, Alabama, there stands a mansion that seems frozen in time. Gaineswood Plantation, with its towering white columns and long shadowy porches, looks beautiful on the outside. But those who've stepped inside know the truth. Something still lingers there. Construction of Gaineswood began in the year 1843, and it took nearly 20 years to finish. It was finally completed in the year 1861, just as the country stood on the edge of civil war. The man behind it was General Nathan Bryan Whitfield, a wealthy cotton planter who moved to Alabama from North Carolina in the year 1834. He started with a small log cabin, known as a dog trot house, and over time turned it into one of the grandest Greek revival homes in the entire South. But this mansion wasn't just built with money and ambition. It was built with the forced labor of enslaved people. Whitfield owned over 200 enslaved individuals and thousands of acres of land. Much of the fine craftsmanship inside Gaineswood, the carved woodwork, the ornamental columns, even the deep drainage canal that still runs through the property, came from the hands of people who never had a choice. From the outside, Gaineswood looks calm, its gardens filled with marble statues and flowers that sway gently in the wind. But many say the house has a way of watching you. The upstairs windows feel like eyes, following every step. Some visitors have said the house seems too still, like it's holding its breath. Others have felt cold spots when the sun was high and hot in the sky. One man who visited the mansion during the summer said the air inside the music room felt like winter, sharp and heavy, like ice settling on his skin. The house was not always quiet. Before it became a museum, Gaineswood was home to generations of the Whitfield family. Laughter, music, and voices once filled the halls. But as time passed and the family moved on, strange sounds started taking their place. A door slamming shut when no one was around. The floor creaking under invisible steps. Soft, hushed voices whispering from empty rooms. Long before any ghost stories were told, Gaineswood already stood on ground full of memory. Before Nathan Whitfield ever came to Demopolis, the land belonged to George Strother Gaines. Gaines was a U.S. Indian agent who once met with Chief Pushmataha of the Choctaw Nation, right under a great oak tree on the property. It was there, beneath the wide limbs of what came to be called the Pushmataha Oak, that the two men discussed the treaty that would lead to the Choctaw removal. Some say the ground has never forgotten what happened there. Though the oak is gone, the weight of those early conversations, of lives changed, lands lost, and promises broken, still seems to echo across the land. There are visitors who say they've seen figures standing near the edge of the property, far from the mansion itself. Silent shapes, unmoving, as if waiting for something. As you walk the grounds today, it's hard not to feel the stillness. The wind seems quieter. The trees seem older than they should be. And the house, white, grand, and proud, stands tall like it always has. But deep inside Gaineswood's walls, the past has not left. And soon, we'll meet the spirit who never did. The winters in Alabama are usually mild, but the year Evelyn Carter died was different. That season brought a strange and bitter cold. Snow and ice covered the fields around Gaineswood Plantation like a thick white blanket. Trees stood frozen, and the ground turned so hard that it could not be broken, even with sharp tools. The countryside looked more like the Arctic than the Deep South. It was during this rare winter that Evelyn Carter, who had come from Virginia to care for Nathan Whitfield's children, became gravely ill. She had fallen in love with a Frenchman who had settled in Demopolis, possibly one of the many Louisiana exiles who came to Alabama, hoping to grow olives. For months, the two were inseparable. They took long walks across the estate, strolled under the bare trees, and often met in the gardens near the parterre walls. But something changed. One cold evening, the couple argued. No one knows what it was about. Evelyn was seen running from the garden, tears on her face. Witnesses say she took off her engagement ring and threw it into the bushes behind the main portico. Her French lover left town soon after and never came back. The loss was too much. Evelyn's health began to fail quickly. With no family nearby and the Whitfields still grieving the death of Nathan's wife, there was little anyone could do. She grew weaker by the day. Some believe the heartbreak was more than her body could bear. She died not long after. But even in death, there was one last obstacle: her burial. The soil around Gaineswood had frozen solid. In the mid-19th century, before modern equipment, there was no way to dig a grave in such conditions. Following the customs of the time, Evelyn's body was placed in a simple pine coffin and stored in the cold, dark cellar beneath the mansion. It was a temporary solution until spring arrived and the ground could be broken. But the cellar at Gaineswood was no ordinary place. Almost immediately after her body was placed there, strange things began to happen. In the middle of the night, footsteps echoed from below. They weren't soft or shuffling. These were heavy, slow steps that moved back and forth across the stone floor, pacing. The kind of pacing someone might do when waiting or worrying. People in the house said the footsteps would grow louder until they reached the basement door, and then, just like that, they'd stop. At first, the Whitfield children thought Evelyn had returned. Her footsteps had always been recognizable. She walked with purpose and didn't try to be quiet. But when the family opened the basement door, there was no one there. Even worse was the feeling that something unseen was just beyond the edge of the light. Some guests who stayed overnight reported hearing the same footsteps, along with a strange chill that seemed to come from beneath the floorboards. The staff, used to the creaks and groans of an old house, admitted that this was different. It didn't feel like settling wood or wind through cracks. It felt like someone or something was down there, moving, watching. No one dared to sleep near the cellar entrance anymore. As the weeks dragged on and the cold refused to lift, the strange activity continued. Footsteps at night, cold spots in the main hall. Some said they heard faint sobbing. Others reported hearing a quiet whisper behind them, only to turn around and find nothing. Evelyn Carter's body remained in that basement for weeks, maybe longer. Spring would eventually come, but something had already been set in motion. Whatever it wasn't going to end with a burial. In the years following the Civil War, Gaineswood began to change. Though the Whitfield family remained on the estate, many of the enslaved workers had been freed, and maintaining the sprawling Greek Revival mansion became more difficult. Parts of the home were shuttered during long seasons, and entire rooms sat untouched for years. One of these was the music room. The music room was once the pride of the house, designed with impeccable acoustics. It featured a high domed ceiling, white plaster walls, and a set of French doors that opened onto a small side garden. The centerpiece was a grand piano, imported from New York City, placed carefully on polished floors of hand-cut pine. The room had hosted formal gatherings before the war, parlor recitals, poetry readings, and small evening dances attended by local elites. But by the year 1871, the room had fallen silent. It was not until 2 decades later that unusual reports began to surface. In the late 1890s, a visiting scholar from Georgia, who had come to document Alabama architecture, stayed overnight at Gaineswood. He was given a guest bedroom on the same wing as the old music room, which had remained locked and unused. According to his journal, which was later archived by the State Historical Commission, he woke just before dawn to the sound of a piano playing. The melody was soft and slow, composed of minor notes and unfamiliar chords. Thinking someone had finally reopened the music room, he dressed and followed the sound, only to find the doors still bolted shut and dust undisturbed. Over the next several years, others began to speak of the same occurrence. The piano playing would begin in the early hours, usually around 3 o'clock in the morning. It would last for several minutes, then fade away. No one was ever found in the room, and the piano remained untouched, its ivory keys gathering a layer of dust. The whispers came later. Children who grew up on the grounds told of hearing voices when passing the music room. They said the voices were muffled, as if coming from behind the walls. Some claimed to hear a woman's voice calling softly, never loud, never clear, just faint enough to stop them in their tracks. Others reported snippets of conversation, but the words were always too distant to understand. When repairs were made to the walls in the early 20th century, nothing unusual was found inside. No hollow spaces, no hidden passages. But the whispers continued. In the 1930s, a visiting opera singer, whose name was never publicly released, stayed at Gaineswood while performing in nearby Tuscaloosa. She had been told about the house's architectural significance, but not about its strange history. After her first night there, she told her driver that she had heard music echoing through the hallway, followed by what she described as a woman rehearsing lines, though I could never make out the words. She left the next morning without returning to the guest wing. The strange events in the music room remained quiet through the mid-century years, as the house underwent preservation efforts. But some of the workers restoring the space in the 1960s reported a return of the sounds. At least 2 men quit before finishing the plasterwork, claiming they had heard someone breathing just over their shoulders when working near the room's southern wall. To this day, the music room remains one of the most avoided areas in the mansion. Tour guides often skip over it quickly, and no one lingers inside longer than they have to. The piano is still there. It no longer plays. But some say if you stand outside that door long enough, you might hear the faint echo of keys pressed by unseen hands. By the time Gaineswood was listed as a National Historic Landmark in the year 1973, many of its upper floors had not been accessed in decades. Though the lower levels had been restored for tours and preservation efforts, the attic remained sealed, its narrow stairwell blocked by storage crates and broken furniture. For years, few even mentioned it. But in the late 1980s, a restoration crew made a decision to clear out the space. What they found was unexpected. Hidden beneath tarps and rotting cloth were several oil portraits, all unsigned. Most were cracked with age, their frames warped by humidity. But the most unsettling detail was that none of the individuals in the paintings could be identified. They did not match any existing images of the Whitfield family or known associates of the estate. One portrait, in particular, drew the most attention. It depicted a woman dressed in mid-19th century clothing, seated beside a window with pale curtains. Her eyes were dark and wide, and she wore no jewelry, an unusual omission for formal portraits of the time. Staff who moved the painting downstairs reported feeling nauseous or lightheaded when handling it. One worker claimed the woman's expression seemed to change subtly when viewed from different angles. The painting was briefly displayed in the front parlor in the year 1989, but was removed after several visitors complained of a sense of being watched. One guest, a professor of Southern art history, noted that the brushwork suggested it had been painted by an amateur. However, he also remarked that the subject's face seemed unusually detailed compared to the rest of the image, almost as if it had been added later. The origin of the paintings remains unknown. There are no records in the estate's historical archives referencing a commissioned artist or stored artwork in the attic. All documentation from the 19th century focuses on architecture, land transactions, and household inventories, but no mention of portraits outside of family records. The attic space itself had another strange feature, a series of short, handwritten notes found beneath a loose floorboard. The paper was brittle and stained, and many of the words had faded beyond recognition. But a few sentences were still legible. One note read, "I hear them walking at night above the second floor." Another stated, "She will not stop staring from the canvas." No signature was attached, and handwriting experts could not match the script to any known member of the Whitfield household. Since the discovery, the attic has been closed to public tours. A replica of the most discussed portrait was placed in the museum archives, but the original was locked away in storage due to repeated complaints by staff. In the years following, paranormal investigators who gained limited access to the space claimed to capture unusually high electromagnetic readings in the area directly above the servant stairwell. Photographs taken inside the attic sometimes revealed unexplained light streaks or blurred shapes, even when using high-speed film. While no formal explanation has ever been given, some believe the attic, long overlooked in Gaineswood's history, holds some of its darkest secrets. In the early 2000s, a structural survey was conducted at Gaineswood to assess long-term preservation needs. During this inspection, a crew working beneath the house discovered a sealed crawl space behind one of the brick foundation walls. The chamber was not marked on any original blueprints, and the bricks sealing it appeared newer than those used in the rest of the house. Inside, workers found fragments of wood, shattered glass, and remnants of fabric, possibly from an old trunk or crate. A rusted iron ring was bolted to the ground in the center of the room, though there were no chains or hardware connected to it. A single candle holder, long burned out, rested on a ledge carved into the wall. There were no signs the space had been entered in decades. What made the discovery stranger was a faint sound that several workers claimed to hear while in the crawl space. It was described as a soft tapping, coming from the floorboards above. When others returned to the chamber with audio equipment, they reported nothing unusual at first. But on playback, a slow knocking pattern could be heard in one recording. 3 soft knocks, followed by silence, repeated several times. The incident prompted Gaineswood staff to consult historical contractors and archaeologists, who speculated the space might have been used for storage or as a hiding place during the Civil War. However, there are no documented uses of such a chamber in the house's known history. No surviving records mention any concealed rooms or architectural alterations after construction was completed in the year 1861. A few years later, during unrelated repairs to the rear section of the property, 2 skeleton keys were found inside a hollow beam. One matched the original pantry door. The other did not correspond to any known lock on the estate. It has never been identified. In the visitor guest books from the early 2010s, several entries mention hearing footsteps on hardwood floors when no one else was present in that wing of the house. Some tour groups reported sudden drops in temperature near the back corridor leading to the original library. Thermal imaging during one nighttime investigation in the year 2013 showed a narrow cold zone along the baseboards in that hallway, despite consistent ambient temperatures throughout the rest of the house. Since then, Gaineswood staff have kept that section of the basement off limits. No further attempts have been made to excavate the hidden room or disturb its contents. Today, Gaineswood remains a museum and historic site, maintained by the Alabama Historical Commission. It is one of the few surviving examples of antebellum Greek revival architecture in the region. While its cultural and architectural importance is well documented, many who visit leave with quiet, unshakable memories of footsteps with no source, cold air in empty rooms, or strange noises that seem to come from beneath the floor. Gaineswood's story, carved in brick and shadow, continues to be told, not only through history books, but through the silent, lingering echoes of all it has held. In the heart of White Castle, Louisiana, stands Nottoway Plantation, a grand mansion with a haunting past. Built in the year 1859 by John Hampton Randolph, this massive home was designed to showcase his wealth and status. With 64 rooms, 200 windows, and 165 doors, it remains the largest antebellum mansion in the South. Randolph, originally from Virginia, moved to Louisiana in the early 1840s. He transitioned from cotton to sugarcane farming, which proved more profitable. By the mid-1850s, he owned over 7,000 acres and enslaved more than 170 individuals. To construct Nottoway, Randolph hired architect Henry Howard. The mansion featured modern amenities for its time, including indoor plumbing and gas lighting. Its most notable room, the White Ballroom, was painted entirely white to highlight the beauty of Randolph's daughters. However, beneath its grandeur lies a darker history. Built by enslaved laborers, the mansion stands as a reminder of a painful past. Over the years, guests and staff have reported unexplained phenomena. Disembodied voices, cold spots, and objects moving on their own. One of the most talked about spirits is that of Mary Ellen, believed to haunt room 14. Visitors have reported seeing a woman in a long dress, feeling cold touches, and experiencing flickering lights. As we delve deeper into Nottoway's history, we'll uncover more about its haunted reputation and the stories that continue to captivate those who visit. The grand staircase at Nottoway Plantation is more than just a centerpiece of architecture. Over the years, it has become one of the most active spots for unexplained occurrences. Staff and guests alike have reported strange sounds echoing through the stairwell late at night, including footsteps when no one is there and the creaking of wood, as if someone were walking slowly up or down. Some of the earliest documented experiences on the staircase came from a caretaker who worked at Nottoway in the early 1990s. He claimed that on multiple occasions he heard heavy boots climbing the stairs in the early hours of the morning. Each time, he would rush to investigate, only to find the staircase empty and undisturbed. Several tour guides have also reported seeing fleeting shadows darting across the landing or disappearing around corners. One guide described seeing what looked like a long skirt swish out of view as she turned the corner of the stairwell. When she followed, the hallway was completely empty. In the year 2008, a group of guests staying overnight in one of the rooms adjacent to the staircase reported hearing a soft humming sound that lasted for several minutes. It seemed to drift up from the lower floors and was followed by the sound of light footsteps that paused just outside their door. When they opened it, there was no one there. Motion sensors installed as part of a modern security system have occasionally been triggered by movement on the stairs when the house was known to be empty. Though checked for malfunctions, no issues were found with the equipment. Many believe the energy on the staircase is tied to people who once lived in the house, or perhaps those who served within its walls. No one knows for sure who or what still walks those steps, but those who have witnessed the activity firsthand rarely forget it. The east wing of Nottoway Plantation has long been the subject of chilling reports, most of them centering around a large antique mirror that hangs in one of the upstairs bedrooms. Though the mirror is not original to the house, it has been in place since the early 1980s and was brought in during a period of extensive restoration. Soon after the mirror was installed, staff began to notice strange occurrences. Housekeepers reported seeing fleeting movements behind them when passing by, only to find no one there upon turning around. Others claimed that their reflections did not match their movements, or that they saw unfamiliar faces flash across the glass for just a split second. One former employee who worked night security in the year 2003 recalled seeing a woman in an old-fashioned dress staring into the mirror in the dark. When he turned on the light, the figure disappeared. He searched the room, but found it empty. According to his statement, the temperature near the mirror was significantly colder than the rest of the room. There have also been accounts of fingerprints appearing on the mirror's surface shortly after it was cleaned. These marks are often small, as though left by a child, though no children were present at the time. In one instance, documented by a maintenance worker in the year 2010, a handprint appeared while he was in the room alone. He left the house and refused to return. Visitors sometimes report feeling disoriented while standing in front of the mirror, experiencing sudden dizziness, or hearing faint whispers with no identifiable source. One guest on a guided tour in the year 2018 claimed she felt as if someone was standing directly behind her while looking into it, though no one was there. Despite attempts to remove or cover the mirror during certain events, the disturbances have continued. Though Nottoway Plantation is known for its grand design and historical detail, it's also known for another strange phenomenon: lights that appear and vanish without explanation. These lights have been witnessed by guests, employees, and even passers-by. One of the earliest recorded reports of these strange lights came from a local sheriff's deputy in the year 1977. While patrolling nearby, the deputy claimed to have seen a flickering light in one of the upper floor windows. Believing there could be an intruder, he investigated, but found the entire house locked and empty. In the early 2000s, several tourists taking nighttime photographs around the exterior of the plantation captured strange orbs of light in their images. Some of these orbs appeared to be in motion, with trailing patterns suggesting they were not dust or camera artifacts. A professional photographer who examined the images concluded that the lights were not caused by any known lens issues. Guests staying overnight in the rooms along the east wing have reported waking up to the glow of a lantern-like light moving past their window, even though no one was outside. In one case, in the year 2011, a couple claimed the light floated upward and disappeared through the balcony ceiling. There have also been incidents in which lights inside the house have turned on and off without cause. Staff have checked the electrical systems multiple times, but no wiring issues or malfunctions were ever found. One employee noted that a chandelier in the dining room once began to flicker violently during a private event, then stopped suddenly when guests entered the room. Some believe these mysterious lights are a form of residual energy, echoes of the past replaying over time. Others suspect they are intelligent manifestations, perhaps trying to communicate or simply watch from a distance. Either way, the lights of Nottoway continue to appear without warning and vanish just as quickly, leaving behind more questions than answers. Behind Nottoway Plantation lies a quiet garden lined with hedges, brick paths, and towering oaks draped in Spanish moss. Though beautiful by day, the garden has long held a reputation for eerie whispers and unexplained sounds at night. Gardeners working on the grounds as early as the 1950s reported hearing soft voices while trimming hedges or watering plants. These voices, described as hushed conversations or fragments of old songs, always seemed just out of reach. When investigated, no source could be found. In the year 2014, a historian conducting research on the grounds claimed she heard a distinct woman's voice say the word "wait" near one of the garden statues. She was alone at the time and described the voice as calm but firm. She returned later with audio equipment, but was never able to record the sound again. Motion sensors have been installed in the garden for maintenance and security purposes. On several occasions between the years 2017 and 2020, the sensors were triggered at night, though no one was seen on surveillance footage. In one instance, the system detected movement near a stone bench, yet the cameras recorded nothing. Visitors walking through the garden have also noted sudden drops in temperature, even during warm seasons. Paranormal investigators who visited in the year 2021 recorded a temperature difference of nearly 10 degrees between the front veranda and a small section of the back garden, despite similar sun exposure. There's also a story among staff about a particular oak tree near the back fence. Some say that on quiet nights, the rustling of its branches carries a rhythm, almost like breathing. Though many dismiss it as imagination, the reports have persisted for decades. The garden at Nottoway is a place of beauty, history, and quiet mystery. As with the rest of the estate, it holds on to something unseen, an echo of voices, a breath of the past, or perhaps something else entirely. Whatever walks through that garden under the moonlight has never made itself fully known, but it leaves behind the unmistakable sense that it is still watching and still waiting. Tucked away in the heart of Louisiana, Magnolia Plantation stands as a haunting reminder of the past. With its long history, eerie atmosphere, and chilling ghost stories, this plantation has gained a reputation as one of the most haunted places in the southern United States. Visitors who step onto the grounds often describe an overwhelming sense of unease, as if unseen eyes are watching from the shadows. Magnolia Plantation was established in the early 19th century by Ambrose Lecomte II and his wife, Julia Bouard. It started as a massive cotton plantation covering more than 5,000 acres of land. With the use of enslaved labor, the Lecomte family cleared over 2,000 acres, transforming the dense woodland into productive cotton fields. Over time, the plantation grew, expanding into a network of properties, with Magnolia serving as the family's main base. Despite its prosperity, the plantation's history is deeply tied to suffering. The enslaved workers endured backbreaking labor under harsh conditions, their lives controlled by those who owned the land. Many stories suggest that these enslaved people turned to voodoo as a silent form of resistance, placing curses on their oppressors in the hopes of justice. The practice of voodoo was deeply rooted in West African traditions, brought over by those who were forcibly taken from their homelands. It is said that the blacksmiths, tasked with creating the intricate Christian crosses for the Lecomte family graves, secretly embedded voodoo symbols within the designs, hidden messages of defiance that have remained on the plantation to this day. The Civil War brought devastation to Magnolia Plantation. Federal troops seized control of the main house, using it as a stronghold while war raged across the region. The once thriving plantation was left damaged, and its enslaved laborers were forced into a new form of hardship. Although slavery had been abolished, many remained on the land as sharecroppers, bound by a system that kept them in a cycle of poverty. They were paid in script, a form of currency that could only be used at the plantation store, ensuring that they remained dependent on their former owners. Over the decades, Magnolia Plantation slowly declined. Cotton was still picked by hand well into the 20th century, but by the time the 1970s arrived, the plantation's farming operations had come to an end. The plantation store remained open for several more years before finally closing in the 1990s. With its buildings falling into disrepair, Magnolia seemed destined to be forgotten, until it was saved in 1994, when the land was donated to the National Park Service. While its history was preserved, something else remained on the grounds as well. Something unseen, but deeply felt by those who visit. Those who walk the plantation today report strange and unexplainable occurrences. From sudden cold spots to eerie whispers in empty rooms, the air is thick with an unsettling energy. Motion detectors often go off for no reason, as if unseen forces are wandering the property. Some believe that the spirits of the enslaved people who once lived and died here have never left. Their presence a reminder of the injustices they endured. Others say that the land itself is cursed, forever holding on to the pain and suffering of the past. With such a tragic history, it is no surprise that Magnolia Plantation has become a hotspot for paranormal activity. But what exactly is causing these hauntings? Are they simply the echoes of the past, or is something far more sinister at work? As we dive deeper into the ghostly encounters reported here, we begin to unravel the chilling mysteries that have made Magnolia Plantation one of the most feared locations in Louisiana. The haunted reputation of Magnolia Plantation is not just based on eerie feelings or strange sounds. Many visitors and workers have reported seeing full-bodied apparitions. One of the most frequently seen spirits is that of a young girl dressed in white. Witnesses describe her as having a sorrowful expression, often appearing in the main house or near the former slave quarters. Some believe she may have been a child who lived on the plantation in the past, possibly the daughter of a former owner or a sharecropper. Others suspect she was a young enslaved girl whose life ended tragically, her spirit left behind to wander the grounds. Aside from the young girl, another ghostly figure often reported is that of a tall man in dark clothing. Unlike the girl, his presence is unsettling. Some who have encountered him claim to feel an overwhelming sense of dread before he appears, as if something is warning them to leave. His identity remains a mystery, but some speculate he could be the spirit of a former overseer or a soldier who once occupied the land during the Civil War. The plantation's main house, rebuilt in the late 19th century, is a hotspot for paranormal encounters. Many believe that the materials used in its reconstruction, wood taken from former slave cabins, carry the energy of those who suffered on the land. Visitors who step inside often report hearing whispers when no one else is around. Others have seen objects move on their own, as if unseen hands are still at work in the home. Outside the main house, the slave quarters hold their own dark history. Although time has worn down these structures, their foundations remain, along with the spirits of those who once lived there. The sounds of footsteps echo on the dirt paths, and shadows are seen moving through the ruins even when no one is near. Some paranormal investigators who have visited Magnolia Plantation claim to have captured voices on recording devices, faint, sorrowful whispers that seem to call out names or phrases in an unfamiliar language. Another eerie phenomenon is the plantation's motion detectors. Installed for security purposes, these devices frequently go off without any explanation. Workers who check the area after an alarm is triggered find no evidence of intruders or animals. It is as if something unseen is moving through the grounds, setting off the detectors at random. Many who have visited Magnolia Plantation leave with more questions than answers. The spirits that linger here seem deeply tied to the land, their presence felt in the creaking wood, the shifting shadows, and the whispers on the wind. But what keeps them here? Is it unfinished business, a tragic past, or something more sinister? As we continue exploring the haunted history of Magnolia Plantation, we uncover even more chilling encounters that have left visitors questioning what truly walks these grounds. Beyond the sightings of spirits and unexplained activity, Magnolia Plantation has long been associated with the practice of voodoo. The enslaved people who lived and suffered on the plantation often turned to voodoo as a means of resistance, using rituals to protect themselves and seek revenge against their oppressors. This spiritual practice, deeply rooted in West African traditions, became a silent form of rebellion, one that may still linger in the plantation's atmosphere today. One of the most chilling aspects of voodoo's presence at Magnolia is the hidden symbols found in unexpected places. The enslaved blacksmiths, tasked with creating iron crosses for the Lecomte family graves, secretly incorporated West African spiritual symbols into their designs. These crosses, while appearing traditional to outsiders, were actually layered with protective and vengeful meanings, allowing the enslaved workers to honor their ancestors and curse those who had wronged them. Even today, those who study these crosses believe they may hold residual energy from the powerful rituals performed by their creators. Voodoo rituals were not limited to metalwork. Many former plantation sites have records of objects buried beneath floors, inside walls, or near doorways to trap spirits or cast protection over certain areas. Some believe Magnolia Plantation is no exception. Stories suggest that some of the eerie sounds and apparitions seen on the property may be tied to these long-forgotten rituals, their power still holding strong even after centuries have passed. Another strange occurrence tied to voodoo legends is the experience of sudden, unexplained illness among visitors. Some who have walked through the plantation report feeling weak, dizzy, or nauseous, only for the symptoms to disappear as soon as they leave the grounds. Paranormal investigators have theorized that this could be tied to the energy left behind by the many voodoo ceremonies performed here, an unseen force reacting to outsiders who dare to intrude on sacred ground. The plantation's history of spiritual practices is further complicated by reports of strange animal behavior. Some believe that animals, particularly dogs and horses, can sense things beyond human perception. Multiple visitors have noted that animals often become uneasy near certain areas of Magnolia Plantation. Some dogs refuse to enter the main house, barking at empty doorways or whining, as if sensing something invisible. Horses once used on the plantation were also said to react with fear near certain structures, refusing to move forward as if blocked by an unseen presence. Whether these experiences are tied to the voodoo rituals of the past or to the restless spirits that still wander the grounds, one thing is certain: Magnolia Plantation is a place unlike any other. The energy here is heavy, the atmosphere charged with an undeniable sense of mystery. But with so many unanswered questions, one must wonder, are the spirits here simply remnants of the past, or is something still actively watching from the shadows? As we continue to explore the plantation's haunted reputation, we uncover even more unsettling encounters that leave visitors questioning the true power of this historic site. The spirits of Magnolia Plantation do not rest, and those who visit often leave with chilling stories of ghostly encounters. Some report seeing full-bodied apparitions dressed in period clothing, while others describe hearing whispers and cries from unseen forces. The most unsettling accounts come from those who have felt an invisible presence watching them, an eerie sensation that is impossible to shake. One of the most frequently seen apparitions is a woman dressed in old-fashioned clothing, believed by some to be connected to the plantation's long history. Witnesses claim she appears in doorways, standing motionless before fading into nothing. Others have reported seeing shadowy figures moving through the grounds, particularly near the slave quarters and the main house. Some visitors describe the figures as simply passing through, while others insist they feel a deep sadness or even anger radiating from them. Another unexplained phenomenon at Magnolia Plantation involves sudden temperature drops. Those walking through the grounds often experience pockets of cold air, even during the hottest months of the year. Paranormal investigators suggest that these cold spots may be caused by spiritual energy, as they commonly appear in places with a history of intense emotions or tragedy. Electronic disturbances are also common at Magnolia. Motion detectors on the property frequently go off when no one is around, and cameras malfunction in areas where ghostly activity is said to be strongest. Some who have attempted to take photographs inside the main house or near the former slave quarters have found their pictures blurred or covered in strange orbs of light. Paranormal researchers believe that these orbs may be a sign of spirits manifesting in an attempt to make their presence known. Perhaps the most unsettling accounts come from those who have stayed on the property overnight. Some report waking up to the sound of footsteps pacing outside their rooms, only to find no one there. Others claim to have heard muffled voices in the distance, speaking in tones that suggest conversation, but with words that cannot quite be made out. These experiences leave many wondering if the spirits of Magnolia Plantation are trying to communicate, or if they are simply reliving their past lives. Forever trapped between worlds, even those who approach the plantation with skepticism often leave with a new perspective. Whether it is a door that suddenly slams shut, a whisper carried on the wind, or an overwhelming sense of being watched, there is something about Magnolia that cannot be ignored. The plantation's history is one of hardship and suffering, and the energy of the past remains strong. As time goes on, Magnolia Plantation continues to be one of the most haunted locations in the southern United States. With each passing year, new stories emerge, adding to its already infamous reputation. The spirits that reside here seem unwilling or unable to leave, their presence felt by anyone who dares to step onto the grounds. Whether you believe in ghosts or not, one thing is certain: Magnolia Plantation is a place where the past refuses to be forgotten. Deep in the American South, where the air is thick with humidity and history, lies the Myrtles Plantation in St. Francisville, Louisiana. This grand old mansion, with its majestic wraparound veranda, blue trim, and 20 rooms, stands on high ground like a fortress, overlooking the surrounding landscape. It might look like something out of a storybook, but the Myrtles Plantation has a history that is anything but charming. Built in 1796 by General David Bradford, the plantation has seen its share of dark and tragic events. Over the years, it has earned a reputation as one of the most haunted places in America. Visitors and ghost hunters alike are drawn to its eerie atmosphere, hoping to catch a glimpse of the supernatural. The plantation's haunted history is deeply connected to the lives of the people who lived and died there. Tales of murder, betrayal, and revenge are woven into the fabric of the house, creating a legacy of fear and ghostly encounters that persist to this day. The Myrtles Plantation is more than just an old house. It is a place where the past refuses to stay buried, and the spirits of those who suffered there still linger, unable to find peace. This is a place where the line between the living and the dead is blurred, where shadows seem to move on their own, and where the air is heavy with the presence of those who met untimely deaths. As you walk through its rooms and hallways, you can almost feel the weight of the history pressing down on you, as if the walls themselves are trying to tell you their stories. In the following parts, we will explore the haunted history of the Myrtles Plantation, uncovering the tragic events that took place here and the spirits that are said to haunt its grounds. From the mysterious death of Chloe, a house slave who sought revenge, to the tragic murder of William Winter on the front porch, the Myrtles Plantation is a place where the past refuses to be forgotten, and the spirits of the dead continue to make their presence known. The Myrtles Plantation has long been known as one of the most haunted places in America, and its reputation has only grown over the years. With its eerie atmosphere and tragic past, it's no wonder that stories of ghostly encounters have been passed down through generations. The plantation's dark history seems to be deeply embedded in its walls, with each tragic event adding to the layers of haunting that people experience today. The story of Chloe, the slave who was mutilated and later killed after poisoning the Woodruff family, is one of the most famous tales tied to the plantation. Her spirit is said to linger, unable to find peace after the horrors she endured and the tragic mistake that led to her death. Visitors and staff have reported seeing a ghostly figure wearing a green turban, believed to be Chloe, wandering the grounds. Some say they felt her presence, a cold, unsettling feeling that sends shivers down the spine. But Chloe is not the only spirit that is said to haunt the Myrtles. The plantation has been the site of many other deaths, each one adding to its haunted reputation. After Chloe's death, the plantation passed through the hands of several owners, some of whom met grim fates. One of the most well-known tragedies involved the Winters family, who moved into the plantation after it was sold to them. William Winter, who married one of the Sterling daughters, was a respected man in the community, but his life came to a violent end. On a cold January evening in 1871, Winter was shot on the front porch by an unknown assailant. Legend has it that after being shot, he staggered inside, trying to make his way up the stairs to reach his wife. He collapsed on the 17th step where he died. To this day, visitors claim to hear the sound of heavy footsteps on the staircase, always stopping on the 17th step, just as Winter did in his final moments. The Myrtles Plantation is also said to be haunted by the spirits of children. Some believe that the souls of the Woodruff children who were poisoned by Chloe remain trapped in the house. There are reports of children's laughter, small footsteps, and even the sight of ghostly figures of children playing in the hallways. One of the most chilling stories involves a mirror in the grand hallway where the images of Sarah Woodruff and her children are said to appear. Despite numerous attempts to replace or repair the mirror, handprints and strange marks always seem to reappear, as if the spirits refuse to be forgotten. These stories have made the Myrtles Plantation a popular destination for ghost hunters and paranormal enthusiasts. Over the years, many have come to experience the hauntings for themselves, and countless visitors have left with stories of unexplained events, strange noises, and ghostly apparitions. The plantation's dark history and reputation as a haunted location have made it a place where the line between the living and the dead seems to blur, leaving those who visit with a lingering sense of unease. The haunting experiences at the Myrtles Plantation are not confined to just the well-known tales of Chloe and William Winter. The entire property seems to be steeped in an eerie atmosphere that affects all who visit. Many guests have reported feeling an overwhelming sense of dread as they approach the plantation, as if the spirits residing there are watching their every move. The house itself exudes a certain heaviness, with cold spots and unexplained drafts that seem to follow visitors from room to room. One of the most active areas in the plantation is the old slave quarters. Though the original building no longer stands, the area where it once existed is said to be a hotspot for paranormal activity. Some visitors claim to have heard the faint sound of chains rattling or soft whispers in the night, believed to be the voices of the enslaved people who once lived and worked on the plantation. Others have felt an invisible force brushing against them or tugging at their clothes, as if the spirits are trying to make their presence known. The plantation's Grand Hall is another place where the supernatural is often experienced. The infamous mirror, where the spirits of Sarah Woodruff and her children are said to appear, is a focal point for many ghostly encounters. Guests have reported seeing fleeting reflections of figures in old-fashioned clothing, only to turn around and find no one there. Even more unsettling are the handprints that seem to appear on the glass, no matter how often the mirror is cleaned or replaced. It's as if the spirits are leaving a permanent mark, a reminder of the tragic history that haunts the house. The upstairs bedrooms are no less eerie. Several guests have claimed to wake up in the middle of the night to see ghostly figures standing at the foot of their beds. These apparitions are often described as women in period clothing, their expressions forlorn as they stare silently at the living. The feeling of being watched is almost palpable, and many have left the plantation unable to shake the feeling that they were never truly alone during their stay. Outside the house, the grounds of the Myrtles Plantation are equally unsettling. The ancient oak trees, draped in Spanish moss, seem to whisper secrets of the past as the wind blows through their branches. Visitors have seen shadowy figures moving among the trees, and some have even reported hearing the faint sound of children's laughter coming from the gardens, though no children are present. The atmosphere is thick with the weight of history, and it's easy to imagine the spirits of those who once lived and died on the plantation still lingering among the trees and pathways. Perhaps the most disturbing experiences are those that occur at the spot where William Winter was shot. Many have reported hearing gunshots echoing through the night, followed by the sound of footsteps running up the staircase. The footsteps always stop on the 17th step, just as Winters did before he collapsed and died. Some say they have even seen a shadowy figure on the porch, a dark silhouette that disappears as quickly as it appears, leaving behind an overwhelming sense of sorrow and loss. The Myrtles Plantation is a place where the past seems to cling to the present, where the spirits of those who suffered and died cannot find peace. It's a place where the boundaries between the living and the dead are blurred, and where the echoes of history can still be heard in the creaking floors, the rustling leaves, and the silent, watchful eyes of the spirits that call the plantation home. Beyond the well-documented encounters, there are countless stories from visitors and paranormal investigators who have experienced the unexplained at the Myrtles Plantation. These accounts add layers of mystery to a place already rich with ghostly tales. One particularly chilling phenomenon reported by visitors involves disembodied voices heard late at night. These voices, often muffled and indistinct, seem to carry on conversations that no living person can understand, as though echoes of the past are trapped in the walls of the house, endlessly replaying moments long forgotten. In the dining room, visitors have occasionally witnessed the apparition of a man dressed in military attire, seated at the head of the table. He is often described as having a stern expression, his gaze fixed on an unknown point, as if contemplating something from his past. This figure is believed by some to be that of General David Bradford, the original owner of the plantation, who seems unable to leave the place he built. The sight of this spectral figure, sitting silently in the dimly lit room, has left many guests feeling an overwhelming sense of unease. There are also reports of strange occurrences in the children's room. Visitors have described the unsettling experience of hearing soft crying or the sound of tiny footsteps, accompanied by the feeling of a cold, unseen presence brushing past them. Some have even claimed to see small handprints appearing on the walls and windows, as if the spirits of children are reaching out to make themselves known. These occurrences are particularly eerie because they are often accompanied by a sudden drop in temperature, a telltale sign of a paranormal presence. Another unexplained phenomenon involves the grand staircase, a centerpiece of the Myrtles Plantation's interior. On more than one occasion, guests have reported feeling an unseen force pushing or pulling them as they ascend or descend the stairs. Some describe the sensation as a firm hand on their back, guiding them as they walk, while others have experienced a sudden, inexplicable dizziness that makes them feel as though the ground beneath them is shifting. These experiences are so common that some visitors refuse to use the staircase at all, opting instead to take a less direct route through the house. Outside the main house, the plantation grounds hold their own share of eerie stories. One particularly unsettling tale involves the old well located near the house. Visitors have reported hearing the sound of splashing water and faint cries coming from the well, even though it has been dry for many years. The area around the well is often described as feeling colder than the rest of the grounds, with some people reporting a sense of dread as they approach it, as if the spirits connected to the well are still trapped there, unable to move on. The Myrtles Plantation is also known for its unpredictable and sometimes violent physical manifestations. Furniture has been known to move on its own, doors slam shut without any apparent cause, and objects sometimes disappear only to reappear in strange places. These events often happen without warning, leaving those who witness them shaken and unable to explain what they have just seen. The unpredictability of these occurrences adds to the fear, as visitors never know when they might be confronted by the unknown. The plantation's reputation as a haunted location is further solidified by the numerous electronic voice phenomena, EVP recordings, captured by paranormal investigators. These recordings often reveal voices or sounds that were not heard during the time of recording, providing eerie evidence that something or someone still lingers within the walls of the Myrtles Plantation. The voices captured in these recordings range from whispers to full sentences, some sounding desperate or angry, others calm and conversational, but all contributing to the overwhelming sense that the plantation is far from empty. The Myrtles Plantation stands as a testament to the enduring mystery and intrigue that surrounds places with a dark history. Over the years, countless visitors, staff, and paranormal investigators have left the plantation with stories that defy logical explanation, adding to its reputation as one of the most haunted locations in the United States. The numerous ghostly encounters and unexplained phenomena experienced within its walls suggest that the plantation is a place where the past continues to live on, refusing to be forgotten. What makes the Myrtles Plantation particularly fascinating is not just the sheer number of ghost stories associated with it, but the way these stories seem to intertwine with the very fabric of the building itself. Each creak of the floorboards, each flicker of the candlelight, and each sudden chill in the air serves as a reminder that this is a place where history is ever present, where the boundary between the living and the dead feels particularly thin. The plantation's haunting beauty and eerie atmosphere draw people in, tempting them to explore its secrets, even as they are warned of the spirits that still roam the grounds. For those who believe in the paranormal, the Myrtles Plantation is a place where the veil between the worlds is thin, allowing the spirits of the past to interact with the present. Even skeptics often leave the plantation with a sense of unease, their experiences challenging their preconceived notions of what is possible. Whether or not one believes in ghosts, there is no denying the powerful presence that seems to inhabit the plantation, presence that has left its mark on all who have passed through its doors. As you walk through the shadowy halls of the Myrtles Plantation, it is impossible not to feel the weight of its history pressing down on you. The spirits of the past seem to linger in every corner, their stories etched into the walls, the floors, and the very air you breathe. Each room tells a different tale, each ghostly encounter adding another layer to the plantation's dark and complex narrative. The Myrtles Plantation is not just a haunted house, it is a place where the past refuses to rest, where the echoes of history are all too real. In the end, the Myrtles Plantation is a place where the mysteries of the past and the fears of the present converge. It serves as a reminder that some stories are never truly over, that some spirits can never be fully laid to rest. Whether you visit as a curious tourist, a seasoned paranormal investigator, or simply someone seeking to understand the unknown, the Myrtles Plantation offers an experience that is both unsettling and unforgettable. It is a place where history and hauntings are inseparably intertwined, leaving an indelible impression on all who dare to explore its ghostly halls.